Wow. Pskov, eh? Oh, interesting. I actually live just off the Pskov highway. So when I left my home this morning, I drive about 2 kilometers and turn right, brings me here. Next year, all I have to do is drive 2 kilometers, turn left. It'll take me direct to Pskov. It's very convenient. Thank you very much. Right, now we're going to get into the keynote, today's keynote. It's a double-barreled keynote. We get two for the price of one. It's on traveling and technologies in evolution from Martin Güll and Emma Håkansson, who are the Chief Digital Officer and Destination Development Manager from Helsingborg. So Martin and Emma, if you'd like to come up, please. And the floor is yours. We wait with bated breath.
I will come.
Good morning, everybody. How wonderful it is to be here. I'm happy to be here to celebrate the 100 years of Latvia with you guys. My name is Martin. I'm the Chief Digital Officer of the city of Helsingborg. It's an organization of about 10,000 employees, and I'm responsible for the overall digitalization in that city. And I'm actually from Sweden. What's that? You don't believe me? Yeah, I figured. So I also brought my colleague Emma. Come up, Emma, on stage.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you for having us here in this beautiful setting and beautiful day. And happy 100th anniversary.
Okay, Emma, what do you say? Should we have a little knowledge check with these guys?
Yeah, let's start.
So, anybody know where Helsingborg is located? Show me your hands. Oh, wow, nice, a few hands. I really appreciate that, of course. Not everybody knows that, of course. It's one of the cities in Sweden. It's actually the 8th largest. So we have Stockholm, Malmö, and Helsingborg, the 3 largest cities. And then we have Helsingborg sitting in the Öresund region. So if you haven't been there before, do you guys know Shakespeare? Yeah, some of you do. You know the castle of Hamlet? So it's not there, right? So it's 20 minutes past from that with the boat ride. It's just over the water. But actually, we're a really forward-looking city. We're growing by 20% the next coming 15 years. We have the largest density of e-commerce companies in the city. We have so many, 165 nationalities, I think, and it's really sitting beautifully by the sea. And maybe you heard of the Museum of Failure, no? Okay, that's one of the things that we're really proud of. Maybe you'll understand that in a little while. So let me start a little bit by talking about digitalization, because that's always the kind of topic that people wonder, what does that mean actually? I've been doing digital stuff for like 30 years, so why is this new now? And I usually show this picture because for me digitalization is really a movement, something that has changed over time. So maybe 30 years back, I don't know how old you are in this room, I actually met people who had been programming mainframe computers with paper cards like this. You punch them in, right? So that was the kind of times when you had internal efficiency in mind. You had big processing power to do logistic frames or economic calculations and so forth. And the UI experience, the user experience was terrible, right? You can recognize that on the left. But then over time, the consumerization happened, right? So then we had internet and we had smartphones and we had something that's called user experience. So people started to expect that you don't have to read a manual to actually understand what to do, right? You just understand that you swipe something on the screen or you pinch something and it's really easy to use. And then over time it's going to change even more, so you have heard examples of Uber and Airbnb, and whole business models and value chains are being changed, destroying whole sectors of the industry. But what's interesting for me is going to change even more. So we're not stuck in one place now. Google just recently announced, and so have all the big other companies in the world, that they will go for AI first, artificial intelligence first. And that basically means that we will have machine learning powers that can do a lot of the things that people used to do. And this is scaring, of course, a lot of people in both the society and in companies. But what's the most important thing for artificial intelligence? That is, of course, data. that is the oil of artificial intelligence. And we already have the internet, right? So all the information is out there. We already know that there is 4 billion users of internet. Half of the transactions that are being done out there are done by machines. It's not people doing them. 44% of the spending is already there in digital media. A lot of people are trusting, 45% of the marketing department are trusting blogs to do the main marketing job for credibility. And of course, Google searches are the main thing that is running the world right now. So Emma, with all this information, what do you say?
How does that
Does
affect
that really
the tourism
mean anything for you?
industry? Well, yes, it does, a lot. Hands up who works at the destination management company or tourist information center. A lot of you, yeah. See, these little kingdoms that we run, these little, where we are princes and princesses in this kingdom, we used to know everything about everything, didn't we? And people had to come to this kingdom to get their information. And they had to queue up, and sometimes the castle was open, and sometimes it was closed. And when it was closed, you wouldn't get your information, would you? But that has changed rapidly over the last few years, of course, through internet. And our kingdom and our castle is no longer there. In fact, only 6% of the people that search for information or inspiration in a destination will come to your channel. Whether it's on the website or your tourist information center, main part, over 90%, will go elsewhere to find that information. And that puts pressure on us. What are we there for? Why do we run these channels? And if everyone uses these apps and they Google the whole time, how are we going to manage in the future?
Yeah. You say Google, you know, that's old school stuff. People don't Google soon. I'm not sure, we're not going to give you so much more of tech trend inspiration, but I want to leave you with one piece. And when you say that people are Googling stuff, that is, of course, current behavior, but I want to show you one example. I'm not sure if you've seen it, and just to explain so you're a little prepared what's going to happen on screen, is that it's a conversation going on between a Google machine and a real-life person in a restaurant. So if you follow the example now, just listen to the conversation and see what you think.
See, how may I hear you?
Hi, I'd like to reserve a table for Wednesday the 7th.
For 7 people?
It's for 4 people.
4 people when?
Next Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Oh, actually we reserve for like after like 5 people. For 4 people you can come.
How long is the wait usually to be seated?
For when, tomorrow or weekday or?
For next Wednesday, the 7th.
Oh no, it's not too busy. You can come for 4 people, okay?
Oh, I gotcha. Thanks.
Yep. Bye-bye.
So I don't know what you guys think, but I'm pretty amazed at how well this computer is handling the conversation, right? It's called Google Duplex, and it was just launched during this year. And from my point of view, it's a lot about talk about sort of how will people manage the new technology. Looking forward, that will become completely natural. And what's going to happen is that you will have these digital assistants, these things that actually manage things for you. They make that restaurant booking thing, they look up the best recommendations and so forth. And the question, of course, is how are we going to be visible in a world where a machine manages your whole experience for you, right?
Exactly.
So
and
just think about that, Emma.
Let's think about that.
Yeah,
and it's already here, isn't it?
I can't wait for the future.
I think it's, here because we know that in destination, and I think Tele2 can prompt us on that, that the smartphones are the new tourist information centers. They are the concierge. They are in your pocket the whole time. And the usage of smartphones in destinations has doubled in the last 3 years only. So it's already here. But And there's this but the whole time, isn't there? The need to be authentic. In all this digital information overflow, I think the consumers are getting more and more on the urge of authenticity. We know that the global visitor economy is changing in everything. How we create experiences, how we do marketing, and how we consume tourism and travel. It's so much more value-driven today, and I think engaging the local community at your destination, working with great experiences, hospitality, that's what's going to build your brand. You can be as digital as you want, but if you don't get your story right, if you're not authentic, I don't think the digital means can bridge over that gap. And talking about how to be authentic, I think you can see in social media is one of the main channels for destinations today to build their brand, to work with the visitors and with the locals. And when you ask people, 85% say that they would post a good experience on social media. 97% out of the millennials post in social media if they have a great experience. But they also post if they have a shitty experience. And they will tell their friends, and they will tell their friends. So you have to get the authenticity, you have to get the experience right, you have to have great hospitality. That's always been there, a baseline, and you have to make sure that they then spread the good word about it. So, as you can see, I think what we want to say is that getting digital is core business. Absolutely, you have to go along, but you also have to do it without losing your credibility along the way.
Wow, that sounds really wise, Emma. So have you Googled that? I mean, all these things are so easy to say in theory, right? I can Google all these things and talk about them on the stage, but do you actually have your own personal experience, or have you done something about it?
We've done a few things, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah?
let's hear about it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our journey in Helsingborg, from being a very traditional destination, and especially a very traditional tourist information center and destination management organization, to our journey to becoming a visitors service center instead. We probably had the most beautiful tourist information center in Sweden. It was located right at the sea, in this beautiful cultural house. We had the best souvenir shop. It was open 7 days a week. The people were great working in there. They knew everything there was to know about everything. But we saw that we had a big decrease in visitors and a really high cost per contact. This was a very expensive channel to run. And it started to make us think, who are we and why are we here? Why do we have 10 people sitting here waiting for someone to come and ask something about something one day? And we started trying new concepts. So our journey actually started 7-8 years ago, and we tried out so many different ways of getting in touch with the visitors. We had info points at attractions, we had free Wi-Fi in the city, we started with digital touch screens, we spoke to the locals, we tried to engage the locals in taking care of the people that visited us. We started social media listening, you know, listening what people were saying on social media and picking up and making sure that they had great experiences when they were here. We could just go in and say, hi, how are you doing? Do you need help? If someone hashtagged or checked in our destination. We had mobile units, at, especially summertime, since we're a big summer destination. We started a digital service center, a self-service center at the central station. Finally, in 2016, we permanently closed our tourist information center. We said, okay, now we're ready. Now we're going to shut down this and make sure that we are so much better in all other channels where we communicate with the tourists.
Wow, wow. This all sounds so easy. Was it just like you just nailed it right away? Or?
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
sure.
Yeah?
No, actually, it was far from easy. I think, as you can see on the next slide, we had so many upset people. They were calling us. The local paper was there the same day they found out. There were storms on Facebook and social media everywhere. They were so angry, people. We closed the core symbol for tourism. The only thing that the locals saw that we did for tourism, we shut down. They didn't see everything else we did, because that's not visible, is it? But a tourist information center is very visible. And we want to work with tourism in our hometown, so we have a tourist information center. But this lasted for a while. It was hard. It was mainly locals that were really upset. The tourists, we didn't have 100,000 people that got lost along the way. They found their way. Those 96%, they found their way around. But it's all about people, I think, the whole time. It's about the employees, it's about the people that decide, the top management, the politicians, and the locals. And for us, it was really important to being open, keeping a clear vision, respond to everyone who was upset, and be honest the whole way. We didn't know what was going to happen. We weren't sure if we would manage, but we decided we have to try. And maybe you fail. We weren't sure about that either. For us, it was really important as well to have these really brave people. And for me, especially since I was in charge of the whole change, for me it was really important to have a brave boss and brave politicians. So brave that they even embrace failures. They installed a prize in the city of Helsingborg, the top management and the politicians, and it's called the worst failure of the year. So if you fail, you can win a lot of cash. Even a lot of cash, actually 5,000 euros if you fail.
Wow. Who are these guys in the picture? Is that your boss? Or
yes, that's the top politician in Helsingborg, and the other one's the top management, the boss, yes.
Okay. To the left, you can actually see Paula, who's the top manager of the organization, and he really started out a few years ago with Instagram, and he sucked at it. But I think he was really offering himself and exposing his weaknesses, and that's a good signal in the organization, of course. The mentality of being able to try and fail and that kind of things. So that's important for us in Helsingborg. When we talk about mistakes, because we really, from a top management point of view, push that out, it's okay to fail. You shouldn't get stuck in the analysis paralysis. You should learn by testing and trying, and we even have that prize, right? But of course, we don't want to fail. That's not the whole point. We want to learn, right? So I was thinking I'm going to give you a digital example of a project that we did where we embraced a kind of new approach, where we try to do it differently. Because in the digital transformation or in a digital project, the key thing is not to fail big, it's to fail small and fast, and then learn, and then redo, and then add on, and then explore as you go. So I'm going to give you an example of that. So behold, our digital experience. Of course, that's a regular painting on the left, so that's amazing, right? You can spot a little smartphone there on the screen, but the whole idea of this application, of this app, is that it shouldn't be in the way of the experience, right? So the whole idea of this was an automagical experience run by Bluetooth that was hidden behind the piece of art, which would tell the smartphone, now you're standing in front of this piece of art, and then you would get audio information and more additional information about the artist and the thinkings about behind the artist piece. But the whole idea is that, of course, that it should not get in the way of the experience. So what we basically did was that we joined up a number of different departments that was pretty unique in Helsingborg, to get this one-stop experience app. So across the different city, with all of our different museums, our different experience centers, we actually joined up to pitch in, both cost-wise but also experience-wise, to create an app, a platform that everybody can fill in content. So we have a number of different things. We have the cultural house, Dunkels, with art exhibitions. We have the park, Fredriksdal, where people can experience how Helsingborg was many years ago. We have city tours about shopping, about strong women's profile, about failures, and we have a lot of different things that the different departments have filled up in the same app. And we have got a lot of attention for that, and basically it's sort of an AR, augmented reality experience. So you just walk around and then you sort of get filled in with additional experiences. We're looking forward to actually making it even more AR, so people, like inhabitants, can spray paint digitally the city hall and that kind of thing. So that's additional.
And when Martin said, let's make an app, and I said, oh no. Everyone makes apps. That's so hyped. And who's going to download this app? And why an app? We should be more visible on Google, and we have to make sure that TripAdvisor is so cool, so everyone wants to go to Helsingborg. Let's not put a lot of money into an app. But we were lucky, because all our attractions in Helsingborg, 5 of them, had to change their audio guide. So when they were about to change their audio guide, we stepped in and said, okay, let's do this together. Let's make sure that everyone gets on the same platform and in one app. Because otherwise, I don't think we would manage to get almost 10,000 downloads in a year if it wasn't for that we actually had it in destination, in the attraction, both indoors and outdoors. And then on top of that, you have the self-guided tours in the city center.
So for me, the funny thing is, but when you talk about it, it's not the app, of course, per se, that's the innovation, but that it ended up to being one app and not 6 apps, which exactly. is quite a common case in many cities, I think.
And I think it's also worth to mention that the biggest numbers of users in this app are actually 65 plus, which no one would have thought when we started. Everyone, especially on the cultural museum side, were a bit anxious that, oh, we're not going to download it. The customers don't like the new technology, the digital stuff. How are we going to manage it without a normal audio guide? But actually, it works really fine, and the older audience are the most faithful ones for the app.
So, of course, this is an interesting thing since we started collaborating in the city. One thing that was interesting about this was the approach. How did we create the app? Did we sit in a room like super smart people, like we gathered 20 super smart people, and then we think about it for a year. How should this app be, and what's the vision, and let's go buy something by public procurement, one-stop solution that just fixes everything. And obviously, it's a leading question, so no. My message here to you is don't think about big bangs. Don't sit in a room and speculate about what kind of experiences, features, and things that that should be in a solution or an app, and then go buy that ready-made turnkey solution. It's really about not thinking too long. So basically, we decided, I think in November, in January we had a vendor, and in March we had the first version of
Yep.
an app. Of course, it's not going to be full-fledged with everything in it, but then the learning journey starts. So with our partner in this endeavor, this is sort of a way of illustrating how you should think about an agile, an iterative, a learning way of developing a project. So don't sit in a room for a year and think about all the good stuff that you want to put in, and then go buy that car. And then you have a vendor who first makes the tires, and then makes the chassis, and then puts in the other stuff. And then after a year or two, you see the solution, and ta-da, out comes something that you didn't expect to get. I've been in so many discussions with vendors where you argue about, that's not what I meant, this was how I meant it, and not that. So basically what you need to do is that you don't start by creating the car. You create something that creates value at all for a user, that on its own premises or on its own basis can give something back. And then you build on top of that step by step. And I can tell you, there's a lot of things that we discovered along the path when we developed this that we wouldn't have figured from the start. So one thing, of course, is the Bluetooth. It actually went out the door. It didn't create value for the user. So even though we marketed this as a cool, automagical experience, we don't have it anymore. Language support, that came up as a big biggie. Content management, how do you as a department put in new content? How easy is that process? So there's a lot of things that would have been really hard to figure out beforehand. So we think you need to build stepwise. The other learning that we had in this that we think is important is the collaboration. So like Emma mentioned, we hooked up 6 different departments that both pitched in money-wise, but also content-wise. So we couldn't have sustained a full, rich experience with an app and have a good user base and communicated that by ourselves. So we would need a good support from the whole organization to actually make that a good experience. In general, we're also having a lot of other partners like business owners, hotels, inhabitants, and so forth. And I think the whole thing is to not think too narrow about when you create the solution, but also always think in terms of a platform. How can we get other people to join in and contribute to your experience, to your solution? And lastly, we actually did a different kind of procurement as well. So we didn't buy a ready-made solution. Here's the spec in 500 pages of document that we buy for the lowest price. But we actually bought a way of working. So we bought an agile contract with a digital bureau called Us2 in Sweden. So we basically said, we have this vision. Is anybody out there that believe in this vision together with us? Okay, we had a few that stretch out their hand, and then we say, okay, we're willing to put this much effort and money into this endeavor. What are you willing to put in? So we ended up with a partner, which I actually call it, because they put on top of our efforts and money, they put the same amount on top of it. So we could get this project for basically half the money. And then, of course, the vision that we wanted to share is that we don't create an app just for Helsingborg, but we actually create a platform that more municipalities are able to use. So the whole thing is based on open source, if you know what that is. That's code that we put on a public site. So anybody, you can do that today. You can go to this site, download the code, and then customize it for your city and for your content. And of course, if you want to collaborate with us, please shout and contact us. You can also contact us too, and they can help, of course, in driving the project. But we really believe in sharing and sort of thinking in a platform.
And I think we have that platform thinking in everything we do, even if it's not an app, it's on the web page, it's in the event calendar. So everything is platform thought and shareable, open source.
So to sort of summarize the digital part of this, I'm trying to convey to you guys, don't Yeah, I think you should have great visions, but always start smaller. Don't go in all in and make the biggest things from straight away, but really try to make baby steps, iterate it, learn, and sort of add on to that experience as you go. Because you don't know, gonna know what people, tourists, inhabitants, and so forth are gonna want in 5 years. That's gonna have to change. So Emma, should we wrap this up?
I think what you have heard from us, and maybe what we will talk about a little bit more in the panel, is that I don't think it's digitalization or preservation. I think it's both, and it has to be both. So it's not one or the other. I think you should start collaborate, because you can always learn from each other, and that's what I think today's topic is as well. Start talking to each other, start collaborate, start exploring, try. You might fail on the way, you might do it right the first time, or you fail again, but as long as you learn from it, you should start exploring more and start failing more. Do small steps, baby steps. I usually say, eat the elephant in small parts. Start somewhere and learn from it. So I would like to ask you guys, what's the smallest thing you can start with today and test?
I think we all need to be more curious, right? And
exactly.
not think too big about our challenges. Just
so
start
invite
doing
a colleague and do it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, together.
Great.
Right, Emma.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.